The conference room smelled of old leather and expensive cologne, a scent that reminded Sebastian Hale of everything his family represented. Wealth without warmth, status without soul. He sat at the far end of the mahogany table, his worn jacket a stark contrast to the tailored suits surrounding him. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretched out like a kingdom he'd never been invited to rule. His older brother Marcus adjusted his Rolex, the gesture deliberate, performative. "I still don't understand why he's even here," Marcus said, not bothering to lower his voice. Dad made it clear years ago what Sebastian was worth to this family. Their sister Victoria laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Oh, come on, Marcus. Dad probably left him the gardening tools or something equally appropriate. Maybe that old truck Sebastian loves so much." She examined her manicured nails. Though knowing Sebastian, he'd probably cry tears of gratitude for that. Sebastian's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He'd learned long ago that silence was armor. His fingers traced the edge of a small wooden compass in his pocket, the only thing his father had given him personally years ago, before everything changed. Before Sebastian had chosen art school over business school. Before he'd become the family disappointment. Their stepmother Diane sat beside Marcus, her diamond necklace catching the afternoon light. She'd married their father 5 years ago, after their mother's death, and had spent every day since reminding Sebastian that he didn't belong. "Richard," she said to the lawyer, "can we please begin? Some of us have actual commitments today." Richard Chen, their father's attorney for 30 years, looked up from his papers. His expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes, something that made Sebastian sit up straighter. "Yes, Mrs. Hale, we can begin." He cleared his throat. The last will and testament of Jonathan Michael Hale, dated 3 months before his passing. 3 months ago. Sebastian's father had updated his will 3 months ago, during the same week Sebastian had visited him in the hospital. That visit had been brief, uncomfortable. His father had gripped his hand with surprising strength and whispered, "I'm sorry, Sebastian, for everything. I see now who you really are." Sebastian had thought it was the medication talking. Morphine-induced regret. "To my son Marcus," Richard read, "I leave my disappointment that you valued my money more than my guidance, my empire more than my wisdom. You will receive $1, as required by law, and nothing more." The room exploded. Marcus shot to his feet, his face crimson. "That's impossible. I'm the eldest son. I've run Hale Industries for a decade." "Sit down, Mr. Hale," Richard said calmly. "To my daughter Victoria, I leave my regret that you became everything I feared. Beautiful on the outside, hollow within. You will also receive $1. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "This is insane. Dad wouldn't, he couldn't." "To my wife Diane," Richard continued, and now his voice carried an edge of satisfaction. "I leave the knowledge that I was never fooled by your performance. The prenuptial agreement stands. You will receive the settlement agreed upon and vacate the family residence within 30 days. Diane's composure shattered. "You can't do this. I'll contest this. You'll find that extremely difficult," Richard interrupted. Mr. Hale was quite thorough in his preparations. He anticipated every legal challenge. He paused, letting the chaos settle like dust after an explosion. Then his eyes found Sebastian's. "To my youngest son, Sebastian James Hale, I leave everything else." The silence was absolute. Sebastian felt his heart hammering against his ribs. "What?" "Everything, Sebastian. Hale Industries, valued at approximately $2.3 billion. The family estate in Connecticut, the Manhattan penthouse, the art collection, the investment portfolios, the charitable foundations. All of it." Richard slid a thick document across the table. "Your father spent the last 3 months of his life ensuring this transfer would be ironclad. This is fraud," Marcus roared, slamming his fist on the table. "He's manipulated Dad somehow, poisoned his mind against us." Richard's expression hardened. "Your father was of completely sound mind. In fact, he recorded a video message, specifically anticipating this reaction. He turned a laptop around, and Jonathan Hale's face filled the screen. Sebastian's breath caught. His father looked gaunt, diminished by illness, but his eyes were clear and fierce. The video began to play. "If you're watching this," Jonathan said, his voice raspy but strong, "then I'm gone, and you're all probably screaming about injustice." He coughed, recovered. "Let me tell you about injustice. For 30 years I built an empire, and for 30 years I watched my children compete for pieces of it like vultures circling a dying animal." Marcus was shaking, his face pale now instead of red. Victoria had started crying, but whether from shock or genuine emotion, Sebastian couldn't tell. "Marcus," Jonathan continued, "you fired 12 loyal employees last year to inflate quarterly profits by 3%. You didn't know I knew that. You thought I was too sick to pay attention. Victoria, you've spent $700,000 in the last 2 years on things you don't need, while claiming to run our family's charitable foundation. You've attended exactly 2 charity events in that time." The old man's eyes softened slightly. "Diane, you thought I didn't notice the prenup you tried to have revised when my diagnosis became terminal. My lawyers noticed. I noticed." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice cracked with emotion. "But Sebastian, my youngest boy, the one I pushed away because he wanted to paint instead of profit. The one who chose a tiny apartment in Brooklyn and teaching art to underprivileged kids over a corner office. The one who visited me every single week in the hospital, even after the things I said to him. Even after I told him he was wasting his life." Sebastian's vision blurred. He remembered those visits, sitting beside his father's bed, reading to him from art history books, showing him sketches his students had made. His father had barely responded, had seemed barely conscious half the time. But he'd been listening. He'd been watching. "I was wrong," Jonathan said, and now tears ran down his weathered cheeks. "I built an empire, but I forgot to build a family. I measured success in dollars and lost sight of what actually matters. Sebastian, you're the only one who understood that all along. You're the only one who became truly wealthy, in kindness, in purpose, in integrity." The video showed Jonathan leaning closer to the camera. "So here's what I'm asking you to do, son. Take everything I built, this cold, profit-obsessed machine, and transform it. Use it the way I should have used it. Make it mean something. And maybe, just maybe, show your brother and sister what I failed to teach them. That worth isn't measured in inheritances." The screen went black. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Sebastian stared at the blank screen, his father's words echoing in his mind. Around him, his family was fragmenting in real time. "I'll fight this," Marcus whispered, but the conviction had drained from his voice. "I'll fight this in every court in the country." Richard closed his laptop with a decisive click. Mr. Hale anticipated that as well. If any family member contests this will, they forfeit even their symbolic dollar and are permanently banned from any Hale family property or business premises. Your father was quite clear on that point. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Victoria stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You think you've won?" she hissed at Sebastian. "You think this makes you better than us? You're still the same failure who couldn't hack it in the real world. Money doesn't change that." But Sebastian barely heard her. He was remembering a conversation from 15 years ago, when he was 17 and had just told his father he wanted to study art. His father had looked at him with such disappointment, such disgust. "You're throwing away everything I've built for you. You're worthless to this family." Those words had defined Sebastian for years. He'd carried them like stones in his pockets, heavy and constant. He'd built a life trying to prove his father wrong, or maybe trying to prove himself wrong. Teaching art to kids in the Bronx who reminded him of himself. Talented, passionate, but told they were worthless because their dreams didn't fit someone else's definition of success. Now, sitting in this pristine conference room with his family's hatred washing over him like a wave, Sebastian finally understood. His father hadn't been wrong 15 years ago. He'd been blind. And in his final months, facing death, Jonathan Hale had finally opened his eyes. "I need air," Sebastian said quietly, standing. His legs felt unsteady, like he was walking on a ship's deck in a storm. "Sebastian," Richard called after him, "we need to discuss the transition. There are documents to sign, board meetings to schedule, decisions that need to be made immediately." "Tomorrow," Sebastian said without turning around. "It can wait until tomorrow." He walked out of the conference room, past the receptionist's desk, into the elevator. His reflection in the polished steel doors showed a man who looked exactly the same as he had an hour ago. Messy dark hair, tired eyes, a jacket with a small paint stain on the sleeve. But everything had changed. Everything. Outside, the October wind cut through his thin jacket. Sebastian started walking with no destination in mind, just moving, thinking. His phone buzzed incessantly. Marcus, Victoria, numbers he didn't recognize. He silenced it. He found himself in Central Park, on a bench near the pond where his mother used to take him as a child. Before she got sick. Before his father threw himself into work to avoid grief and never climbed back out. Before everything got complicated. "This is insane," he said out loud to no one. A jogger glanced at him curiously and kept running. $2.3 billion. The number was so large it felt abstract, meaningless. How did you even conceptualize that? Sebastian lived on $38,000 a year from his teaching salary. He was behind on his electric bill. He owned one pair of decent shoes. His phone rang again. This time it was a number he recognized, Maria Gonzalez, the principal at his school. He answered. "Sebastian? Oh my God. I just saw the news. Are you okay?" "News? What news?" "It's everywhere. Black sheep billionaire. Art teacher inherits Hale fortune. It's on every financial site, every gossip column. Your students are going crazy. Is it true?" Sebastian closed his eyes. Of course the media had gotten it already. A story like this, the worthless son inheriting everything, was too good to ignore. "Yeah," he said quietly. "It's true." "Holy shit, Sebastian. What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was he going to do? He could sell everything, donate it all, go back to his simple life. That would be the easy choice, the safe choice. But his father had asked him to do something harder, to transform it, to make it mean something. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But Maria, I need you to tell the kids something for me. Tell them I'll be there Monday morning, same as always. This doesn't change who I am." "You're going to keep teaching?" She sounded stunned. "Why wouldn't I?" He could hear her smiling through the phone. "Because you're a billionaire now, Sebastian. Billionaires don't teach art in the Bronx." "This one does," he said. "At least until I figure out what comes next." They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that would have been perfect for a painting. Sebastian pulled out his phone and took a picture, then opened his notes app and started writing. Things Dad built. An empire. A reputation. A legacy of profit. Things Dad forgot to build: trust. Love. A family that wanted to be together. Things I need to figure out. How to honor his final request without becoming what I've always hated. How to use this money to actually help people. How to prove that worth isn't measured in dollars, even when you have billions of them. He stared at those words for a long time. Then he made a decision. The next morning, Sebastian walked into the Hale Industries headquarters for the first time in his life. The building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in Midtown, a monument to his family's success. Security stopped him at the entrance. "I'm sorry, sir, but you need authorization to—" The guard's eyes widened as he looked at his computer screen. "Mr. Hale? Sebastian Hale? That's me." The guard practically fell over himself, apologizing and calling for assistance. Within minutes, Sebastian was surrounded by executives, assistants, and people whose job titles he didn't understand. Richard Chun appeared like magic, cutting through the crowd. "Sebastian, thank God. We need to make several crucial decisions today. The board is demanding answers. and there are 3 major deals that need approval or rejection by the end of business. Sebastian held up a hand. First, I need to see everything. Every department, every division. I need to understand what this company actually does. Richard blinked. That could take weeks. Then will take weeks. I'm not making billion-dollar decisions about a company I don't understand. He looked around at the assembled crowd. And I need you to set up a meeting with the head of HR and the heads of all charitable initiatives. Today, if possible. The morning blurred into an overwhelming cascade of information. Sebastian toured factories, met department heads, reviewed financial statements that might as well have been written in ancient Greek. His head spun with acronyms and corporate jargon. But he paid attention. He asked questions. And he started to see patterns. Hale Industries made most of its money from real estate development and private equity investments. They owned shopping centers, apartment complexes, office buildings across 15 states. They invested in startups, bought struggling companies, broke them apart and sold the pieces. It was exactly what Sebastian had always thought. A machine designed to generate profit with no regard for the human cost. But buried in the corporate structure, he found something interesting. A small division called Hale Community Development, established 20 years ago by his mother before she died. It had been gutted and minimized over the years, reduced to a token gesture. But it still existed. Why hasn't this been shut down completely? Sebastian asked the nervous executive who'd explained it to him. Your father wouldn't allow it, the woman said. Every time someone suggested closing it, he'd refuse. We never understood why. It barely breaks even. Sebastian smiled for the first time that day. His father had kept his mother's dream alive, even as he'd let everything else become cold and mercenary. It was a small thing, but it was something. I want a full report on every project this division has attempted in the last 10 years, Sebastian said. Everything they wanted to do but couldn't get funding for. Everything Marcus or the board rejected. That afternoon, Sebastian sat in his father's office, his office now, and read through 20 years of rejected proposals. Community centers in struggling neighborhoods, affordable housing initiatives, job training programs, art education grants, page after page of ideas that could have helped people that had been dismissed because they wouldn't generate enough profit. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. He'd been ignoring them all day, but something made him answer this one. Sebastian Hale. Mr. Hale, this is Jennifer Morrison from the Times. I'm writing a piece about your inheritance and I'd love to get your perspective on. No comment, Sebastian said and hung up. Immediately, the phone rang again. Different numbers. He turned it off. Richard knocked and entered without waiting for a response. The board wants to meet with you tomorrow. They're concerned about your lack of experience. I bet they are, Sebastian said. They're probably terrified I'm going to do something crazy like prioritize people over profits. Are you? Richard asked carefully. Sebastian looked at him for a long moment. My father asked me to transform this company, to make it mean something. I'm going to honor that request. If the board doesn't like it, they can resign. They'll fight you. Marcus still has allies on the board. They'll claim you're unqualified, that you're going to destroy everything your father built. Good, Sebastian said, because I am going to destroy it, and then I'm going to build something better in its place. Richard's expression was unreadable. Then slowly he smiled. Your father said you'd say something like that. He told me 3 months ago that you were the only one with the courage to burn it all down if necessary. He handed Sebastian a folder. These are the board members who'll support you. Your father identified them before he died. They're people who've been frustrated with the company's direction for years, but couldn't do anything about it. Sebastian opened the folder. 6 names, including Richard's own. You're on the board? Your father appointed me the week before he died. He wanted someone there who understood what he was really asking you to do. Richard's expression softened. He loved you, Sebastian. He just forgot how to show it until it was almost too late. Don't make the same mistake he did. That evening, Sebastian returned to his tiny Brooklyn apartment. His neighbor, Mrs. Chun, was watering plants in the hallway. Sebastian, I saw the news. You're rich now. She grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong for a 70-year-old woman. This is wonderful. You can finally get out of this terrible building. I like this building, Mrs. Chun. She laughed. You're a good boy. A strange boy, but a good one. Your father must have been very proud. Sebastian felt his throat tighten. I hope so. Inside his apartment, everything was exactly as he'd left it yesterday morning. His easel by the window, covered in half-finished paintings. His tiny kitchen with the refrigerator that hummed too loudly. His bedroom is barely big enough for a bed and a dresser. This had been home for 6 years. It still felt more real than any conference room or corner office. He made instant ramen, comfort food from his college days, and sat on his fire escape, eating and watching the city lights. Tomorrow he'd face the board. Next week he'd start implementing changes. But tonight he was just Sebastian, the art teacher from Brooklyn who'd somehow inherited an empire he never wanted. His phone powered back on and messages flooded in. But one made him pause. It was from Jamie Rodriguez, one of his students. Mr. H, I don't care if you're a billionaire now. You still owe me feedback on my portfolio. Don't think you can get out of it. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Sebastian laughed out loud, startling a pigeon on the railing. This was what mattered. Not the money, not the power, not the revenge on his siblings or the empire he'd inherited. It was Jamie, who'd grown up in poverty just like half his students, who had talent that deserved nurturing, who needed someone to believe in him. That's when Sebastian understood what he had to do. The board meeting the next day was exactly as hostile as he'd expected. 12 men and women in expensive suits, sitting in judgment of the art teacher who dared to inherit their company. Mr. Hale, began Thomas Pritchard, the oldest board member. We respect your father's wishes, but we have serious concerns about your qualifications to run a company of this magnitude. I'm sure you do, Sebastian said calmly. Let me address those concerns directly. You're right. I have no business experience. I've never run a company. I don't understand half the jargon you all use. He paused. But I understand people. I understand what it means to struggle. And I understand that Hale Industries has spent decades treating profit as the only metric that matters. Profit is what keeps companies alive, someone interjected. Profit is what keeps bad companies alive, Sebastian countered. Good companies create value. Real value. They make people's lives better. When was the last time Hale Industries made anyone's life better besides our shareholders? Silence. I'm not here to destroy this company, Sebastian continued. I'm here to evolve it. And I'm going to start by announcing a new initiative. He nodded to Richard, who began distributing packets. The Hale Community Innovation Fund. $1 billion, allocated over the next 5 years, for projects that prioritize people over profit. The room erupted. Questions, objections, accusations of recklessness. Sebastian waited for the noise to die down. This isn't a request, he said quietly. I control 51% of the voting shares. This is happening. You can either help me do it right, or you can resign and I'll find people who share my vision. Thomas Pritchard studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, the old man smiled. Your father said you had more spine than your brother. I told him he was wrong. He looked around the table. I was wrong too. I'm in, Mr. Hale. Tell me what you need. One by one, others fell in line. Not all of them, 3 board members resigned on the spot. But enough stayed. Enough believed. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Sebastian learned to navigate corporate politics while refusing to become a politician. He made mistakes, huge ones. He trusted the wrong people, greenlit projects that failed, misread situations that more experienced executives would have handled smoothly. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. But he also kept teaching. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, he showed up at his school in the Bronx. He sat with Jamie and helped revise his portfolio. He encouraged Maria Suarez when she doubted her talent. He bought supplies with his own money, even though he now had billions. The media couldn't figure him out. Billionaire teacher became his nickname. Some outlets praised him as a revolutionary. Others mocked him as naive. His siblings gave bitter interviews about how he'd stolen their inheritance. He ignored all of it. 6 months after inheriting, Sebastian stood in an empty lot in the South Bronx. It had been a factory once, then abandoned, then a symbol of urban decay. In 2 weeks, it would be the first Hale Community Center, a space for art classes, job training, after-school programs, and community events. Free, accessible, transformative. This is what you wanted, isn't it, Dad? Sebastian said to the wind. Not the money, not the empire. This, making things better. His phone rang. Marcus. He'd been calling weekly, always with the same message. Lawyers, challenges, claims that Sebastian was destroying their father's legacy. Sebastian answered this time. Marcus, you're killing the company, his brother said without preamble. Stock prices are down. Investors are fleeing. You're a disaster. Stock prices will recover, Sebastian said calmly. And if the investors who leave are the ones who only care about quarterly profits, then good riddance. You self-righteous, Marcus caught himself. You think you're better than me, than all of us, but you're just playing with Dad's money. You didn't earn it. You don't deserve it. Sebastian was quiet for a moment. You're right. I didn't earn it. None of us did. We were just born lucky. The difference is, I'm trying to use that luck to help people who weren't born lucky. What are you using yours for? Marcus hung up without answering. A year after the will reading, Sebastian stood in the same conference room where it had all begun. But this time he'd called the meeting. Richard sat beside him, along with the heads of every division of the transformed Hale Industries. 1 year ago, Sebastian began, I inherited a company I didn't want, money I didn't earn, and a challenge I didn't feel qualified to meet. I've made mistakes. I've failed more times than I can count. But I've also learned something important. He pulled up a presentation showing the numbers. Not stock prices or profit margins, but different metrics. Jobs created in underserved communities. Kids enrolled in free educational programs. Families moved into affordable housing. Small businesses funded. Lives changed. These are the numbers that matter, Sebastian said. And yes, we're still profitable. Less profitable than before, but sustainably so. We're proving that you can do good and do well at the same time. He looked around the room at faces that had become familiar. Allies who'd believed in this crazy vision. My father asked me to transform this company, to make it mean something. I think we're getting there, but we're just starting. The room erupted in applause. Not polite corporate applause, but genuine, enthusiastic support. That evening, Sebastian visited his father's grave for the first time since the funeral. He knelt in the grass, tracing the letters of his father's name carved in granite. I hope I'm doing this right, he said softly. I hope this is what you meant. I'm trying to honor your legacy by building something better than what you left behind. Something that would have made Mom proud too. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, carrying the scent of autumn leaves. Sebastian stayed there until the sun set, talking to his father about everything, the victories, the failures, the fear that still woke him up at night wondering if he was just a fraud playing dress-up in a billionaire's clothes. But then he thought about Jamie, who'd just gotten accepted to art school with a full scholarship funded by Hale Industries. About Mrs. Chun, whose rent-controlled building had been saved from demolition by a Hale Community Housing Initiative. About the hundreds of people whose lives had been tangibly improved by the transformation of his father's empire. Maybe worth wasn't about being worthless or worthwhile. Maybe it was about what you did with whatever you were given. The gifts, the curses, the unexpected inheritances that changed everything. Sebastian stood, brushing grass from his knees. He had a community center opening to attend tomorrow. A board meeting the day after. A classroom full of students who didn't care that their teacher was a billionaire. Only that he showed up and believed in them. His father had given him everything, hoping he would transform it. And Sebastian had discovered that transformation wasn't about changing what you inherited. It was about letting what you inherited change you, mold you into someone capable of using power with purpose, wealth with wisdom, privilege with compassion. He walked back to his car, still the old truck, because some things didn't need to change. As he drove through the gates of the cemetery, Sebastian smiled. He was still an art teacher from Brooklyn, still the family disappointment in Marcus and Victoria's eyes, still the kid who chose passion over profit. But now he was also proof that his father had been right about one thing. Worth wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in differences made, lives touched, futures changed. And by that measure, Sebastian Hale was finally truly wealthy.